to people that shouldn't. We believe in individual rights. We believe that anybody can worship any way they want, to anybody or everything that they wish, but they don't have the right or privilege to push that on to anybody else. The evangelicals of this country want to create a theology, a theocracy out there that you have to think like they do, act like they do, and perform like they do. I don't know, I've seen some of those preachers, those millionaire preachers with their pulpits and their sheep, and all they're doing is fleecing those poor people. They're living in mansions, they have jet planes, their wives have relationships with the pool boy, and yet this is all okay. But the Democratic Party somehow has failed itself. We have an election in November, pretty important. We have a Republican Party that's been hijacked by an organization called Trump. I don't know anybody out there that's a guy that wears orange makeup everywhere they go. He turns every truth into a lie. The weather is going to be nice the next few days, but I'm hoping sometime next week it's going to get a little stormy. But we have to be ever diligent. I understand that when you look at the macro end of it, Pennsylvania has Philadelphia and its collar counties, it has Allegheny County, it has Erie. But what's going to happen this election is going to be the rural Democrats that make those numbers. So don't be afraid to talk to your neighbors and your friends and all those people who are Democrats who are just being inundated by Fox TV or by their neighbors who just sit there and listen to these stories that aren't true. We have an election here locally for state representative. And let me tell you, I was in Harrisburg for quite a few years. And it's okay to be in the minority, but it's a lot better to be in the majority. And right now, the Senate of Pennsylvania is down by a number of candidates, by a number of members, and I doubt in the next few years we're going to see those go from Republican to Democrat. But in the House of Representatives, by one slim vote, the Democrats have control. That means they get the Speaker of the House, they get the chairmen of the committees, they decide what bills do run, and most importantly, they decide what bills don't run. We have one of our own, Frank Burns, here. Some people don't like the way he parts his hair, some of the votes he makes. But in the big picture of it, his vote is important for the Speaker of the House. And that Speaker decides who the chair people will be, what votes do come up, and most importantly, what votes don't come up. I just used his office the other day, had an issue, and they took care of it. I'm very pleased, thank you. So we have Ellie Horvath here to speak on Frank Burns' behalf.
Thank you all for coming today. I'm here on behalf of Representative Burns. He's out in the community talking to constituents today. But to go along with what Senator Wozniak said, we're not going to agree with everybody on everything that's life. I don't agree with my friends or family, but we got to look at the bigger picture, which is Frank Burns has seniority to get grants and bring things to our area, and also he will be the deciding vote on who is the Speaker of the House, which is very important. He is currently working on legislation at the state level for Made in America Jobs Plan to make sure that projects use American-made steel. He's also working at the federal level with Congressman Roy Kahana on doing a steel bill there to bring clean steel back to America to produce. He's working on important things for our area for jobs and education. So I hope you all will put your differences aside and do for the greater good and support Frank. And I am here if anyone has any questions or needs yard signs or wants to get involved, because his race is very important. So thank you.
Thank you. Lieutenant Governor's here. Give a big welcome, Cambria County. Welcome, Lieutenant Governor. Thanks for traveling in. Oh yeah, stand up to Lieutenant Governor. We don't get Lieutenant Governor very often. Tell you another issue that's facing us nationally, and it's really uncomfortable, particularly for state legislators, because they used to be able to deal with Roe versus Wade, but now the guy that wears that orange makeup, oh, he's proud of himself, but now he's backpedaling now because he's realizing he's putting these states in a very difficult situation. But I've already seen in social media that the Democrats, they're for abortion right up to the moment of birth. Bullshit. Bullshit. And it's time to push back on that. Talk about the rights of individuals. Let a woman, let the doctor, let the medical responsible people make that very, very difficult, emotional issue. Everybody's pro-life, but some people have to make a choice decision, and sometimes it's very uncomfortable. But what's going to happen now, and you can see it across this nation, 50 separate states making 50 separate laws, a cacophony of different rules of how to deal with the women. And we see in Arizona, they're going back to an 1884 law that bans it completely, except for maybe health of the mother. And you see other states banning abortion completely, and already you see people coming out that they were carrying an unviable fetus, they had sepsis, and all kinds of other problems. This is the 21st century, and we really have to pay attention to what our elected officials are going to be doing at the state level, because it's been taken away from Washington and laid down at the feet of the states. And I'll tell you, I've been there, and it's a difficult political decision. But once again, we have to rise to the occasion until Washington changes its rules and makes a law that affects all of us. Okay, next, we have a candidates for treasurer. We have Ryan Bizarro and Erin McClellan. Erin McClellan, she's from our larger suburb to the west, Pittsburgh, or Allegheny County. But we have a speaker for Ryan Bizarro who's from Erie. And I was just up in Kent State just the other day, saw the total eclipse of I'm so vain, I saw the total eclipse of the sun. And it was very cool. We saw it completely there, and you could take your glasses off and see it for a few minutes there. And I think the next time it happens our way is 2099, and I won't be around. But we're going to have Caleb Bazard to speak on behalf of Treasurer candidate Ryan Bizarro, who's also a state representative of the county.
Thank you so much, Senator. I really appreciate it, and thank you all so much for coming out on this gray Saturday morning. There's nowhere I'd rather be than beautiful Cambria County, and I'll tell you what, I haven't had a pancake breakfast that good in a long, long time, so I might have to come out here every Saturday and spend some time with you if I'm going to get fed like that. But I just want to talk to you all briefly about Ryan Bizarro, who's a state representative from Erie County, and he's the Pennsylvania Democratic Party endorsed candidate for state treasurer. First of all, I want to say Ryan sends his regards. He's sorry he can't be here, but when you're running a 67 county race, especially as we get this close to primary election, I think there are about 100 other county breakfasts today. So he's in Center County. But I just want to tell you a little bit about why we think Ryan is the right choice for Democrats in this upcoming election. Ryan Bizarro has been a state representative from Erie County for over a decade. And in his time as a legislator, Ryan has traveled to all 67 counties in the Commonwealth in his position in House leadership as the House Democratic Policy Chairman. Ryan has spoken with Pennsylvanians all across our Commonwealth, from Philadelphia to Erie to Allegheny to Cambria and everywhere in between. He has listened to their concerns, and he has translated what motivates them, what concerns them, into policy and into legislation that has helped working Pennsylvanians. And the kind of legislator that Ryan Bizarro is reflects what kind of state treasurer he will be. Ryan Bizarro is going to make treasurer's office more accessible to Pennsylvanians, cut through red tape, and bring it directly to folks like here in Cambria County. He's going to invest in working families, and he is going to make sure that Pennsylvanians have a secure financial situation for themselves and their families to fall back on. But this is more than a race for state treasurer. Ryan Bizarro is running against Pennsylvania's highest-ranking extremist officeholder, incumbent Republican Stacey Garrity. Stacey Garrity tries to tell you that she's a moderate, but she is anything but. Stacey Garrity, on January 5th, rallied insurrectionists at the Pennsylvania State Capitol one day before sending them on a bus to Washington, D.C. to attack our democracy on January 6th. Stacey Garrity supports a total abortion ban with no exceptions in Pennsylvania. And Stacey Garrity was one of the first statewide elected officials in the country to endorse Donald Trump's 2024 presidential campaign. Despite what she might try and tell voters, Stacey Garrity is no moderate. She's a radical extremist, and Democrats and voters in Cambria County are going to see through that in November when they vote for Ryan Bizarro. But let me tell you that if we don't beat Stacey Garrity in 2024, she's not stopping at the treasurer's office. Just last week, a group of Republicans got together in Harrisburg, and in a straw poll, they agreed that their top Republican choice to run for governor in 2026 was Stacey Garrity. 2024 is when we stop the spread of radical extremism in Pennsylvania, when we elect Ryan Bizarro and stop Stacey Garrity in November. But Ryan Bizarro is the right choice for Democrats because he's not just going to make a great state treasurer. He knows how to win. Ryan Bizarro comes from Erie County, and you all might have heard in 2020 that Erie County is the bellwether county in Pennsylvania for electing not just the president, but electing Democrats. And Ryan's district in the House of Representatives is a Republican district. Ryan knows how to win Republicans. Ryan knows how to beat Republicans on the ballot. And that is what he's going to do in November. And Ryan, coming from Erie County, understands what it's like to come from a smaller county. He understands what it's like to have to fight tooth and nail to get the representation that you deserve at the state level. I know that's something that people in Cambria County understand well. And you can be assured that when Ryan Bizarro is your state treasurer, you're going to have a fighter, someone who wakes up every morning and thinks about Cambria County voters, thinks about Erie citizens, thinks about people in our smaller, underrepresented counties. And that is why over 200 elected officials, unions, and political organizations in Pennsylvania have endorsed Ryan Bizarro's campaign, including former Governor Ed Rendell, former Treasurer Joe Torsella, AFSCME, I know we have AFSCME in the House today, AFSCME has endorsed Ryan Bizarro. The Pennsylvania AFL-CIO has endorsed Ryan, and so many other unions and working groups representing working class Pennsylvanians. They understand that Ryan Bizarro is going to run a campaign and be a state treasurer that makes us proud not as Pennsylvanians, but as Democrats. And my pledge to you is if you put your faith in Ryan Bizarro on April 23rd, he is going to make you proud to be Cambria Democrats. So thank you all. I will be here. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. Please feel free to look at the literature on your table. And let's win big for Democrats up and down the ballot in November. Thank you.
That's Caleb for Ryan Bizarro. Caleb, that's pretty good for the first time you ever spoke that to. Let's see what I have here. I have glasses that I can see out here. And glasses to read the notes here. Okay, next we have candidates for Attorney General. So we have a bunch of people here, so just bear with me. We got Joe Kahn, Jack Stolzmeister, I know him. Jared Solomon, don't know him. Keir Bradford Gray, do not know if that's a guy or a girl.
That's a woman.
Okay, so I obviously don't know that person. And my good friend Eugene DePasquale, who served in the House when I was in the Senate. He's now the Auditor General, but he's going for Attorney General.
He was the Auditor.
He was the Auditor General, going for Attorney General. That's what the notes said. I mean, that was my bad. And great guy, intelligent, and definitely understands what's going on. And once again, and we all know how important the courts are now. You have your court system, judicial branch, but you also have the Attorney General. It's our top enforcer and prosecutor of the Commonwealth. And here we have, if Carver Murphy's here. Carver, come on up. He's going to have a few words for Eugene DePasquale. And we'll see if you do as well as Caleb did.
It is tough to follow Caleb. He does a good job. So, like Ryan, though, Eugene is in Center County this morning for their breakfast. But I'm happy to be here in Cambria County, and I thank you guys all for having me. And I do always start out this talk by promising not to talk as much as the politicians will. But many of you are familiar with Eugene. He was our Auditor General for 8 years. If you maybe saw the other day, we're quite happy to have the Philadelphia Inquirer endorsement. And I don't know if that says anything that there are 4 candidates from Philadelphia in this race, and Eugene, being the candidate from Pittsburgh, got the Philadelphia Inquirer endorsement, but they did endorse him because he has won statewide twice and has the experience as Auditor General that will inform the kind of Attorney General he will be. As Auditor General, Eugene found, it was his investigation that found 58,000 unanswered phone calls to the child abuse hotline. And as many of you can, it's not hard to imagine that any one of those phone calls could be life or death for a child. And he went to all 67 counties and worked to get that backlog erased. It was his investigation that found over 3,000 untested rape kits. The horror that those victims had to go through, and then to not have justice just because they couldn't be bothered to test. Well, it was his office that worked to get that backlog erased and get justice for those victims. It was his investigation that exposed real alternatives. It's the crisis pregnancy centers that were providing not just misleading information, but outright lies to women about their options for reproductive health care. And it was that investigation that then led to now Governor Shapiro canceling the contract and not spending state dollars on those lies. And that's some of the work that Eugene did as Auditor General, the kind of justice you can expect him to deliver then as Attorney General. But I do want to spend a couple minutes just telling you why that's, if you meet Eugene, you'll understand. He's quite passionate. A part of that is the Italian blood, and some of that is just that these issues are personal to him. We just had dinner last night, and he was telling the story that his father was wounded in Vietnam. He went to Vietnam, served in the army, and was wounded. And when he came home, he went to a VA hospital, and they prescribed him synthetic heroin. That led to a 30-year battle with addiction, eventually dealing, and a 10.5-year federal incarceration. So Eugene knows both sides of the failed war on drugs and the impact that not just gun violence has on a family, but incarceration. I can't think of a better perspective for an Attorney General to have. And certainly we all know, I think everyone in this room probably knows someone, a family, a friend, family member, a friend who has had to deal with the opioid crisis. So Eugene is dedicated to making sure that this changes from a war on drugs to a battle against addiction, because that's what we have to make this. Eugene's brother passed away when he was about 20 years old, but throughout his life had muscular dystrophy. And prior to the Obamacare Affordable Care Act, as many of you know, of course, that was considered a pre-existing condition, and the insurance companies would not give them health care. So Eugene spent his entire life with no health insurance, and when his brother passed away, his family, while Eugene was putting himself through night law school, his family had to take out loans to pay for the funeral, and his father had to come to the funeral in shackles. So when we talk about taking on insurance companies, big corporations that are trying to scam our seniors, Eugene knows what these companies and corporations will do to people if given the opportunity, and he's going to have your back every single day. And finally, I'll give you that we mentioned the battle, this conversation that we're having nationally about abortion rights is personal. Before Eugene had his oldest son, his family had an ectopic pregnancy. The decision that they had to make that night in the state of Oklahoma today would leave him, Tracy, and the doctor on their way to jail. Today, 2024. It's amazing that we say that, but I'm here to tell you that Eugene will not only have the backs of every Pennsylvanian that wants to access reproductive health care, but anybody leaving these extremist authoritarian states who comes to Pennsylvania to seek reproductive health care he'll have their back too. And finally, I will leave you with this. Eugene's professional experience of taking on hard investigations statewide, running a statewide agency, his personal experience about why these issues are so important. He knows them, he feels them passionately and personally. He's the only candidate on the ballot that has run statewide twice, has won statewide twice, and has won with Donald Trump on the ballot. And I don't have to tell you here in Cambria County what that means and the value of that, having that on our ticket. This is a race we cannot afford to lose. Eugene DePasquale will be our candidate to win this race. So we'll hope to have your vote on April 23rd. And we're going to run this through November, and we're going to win. Thank you all.
Thanks, Carver. And I know he has the stamina, because if I'm not mistaken, Tom Cherninsky runs almost every day. But Eugene DePasquale, he's run Ironman contests. So if you want to talk somebody who can tough it up, there's somebody who can do some remarkable things. So remember, Eugene DePasquale, I know he has that Italian blood, but it must be some hunky in him too. He wins all the time like that. He'll be all right. The other thing I wanted to bring up on the national level, been reading a lot about it, and I guess on Fox TV they probably show it every day, and they see the border. Sort of interesting that in the President's State of the Union, they had a bipartisan bill passed in the United States Senate. I saw the Republican senator who wrote the language dealing with the border crisis, even nodded, said that's right when the president brought it up. The strongest with the most teeth in it ever in the history of this nation. Donald Trump, because he wants to keep the border issue alive, told the Speaker of the House and a handful of those lunatics over there, don't bring that bipartisan bill up, written by a Republican, up for a vote because it'll hurt him in November. Whose interest does he have? The United States citizens or his own private world that he wants to live in? Always remember that. We're not against the immigrants. We're not against the people that want to come to the country, but we do have to control the illegal immigrants. And the president wanted to do that. He shook hands with Republicans who wanted to do that, and one man stopped it for his own personal gain. Next we have candidates for Auditor General. I don't know if Malcolm Kenyatta is supposed to be here tonight or not. Okay. We have Malcolm Kenyatta, presently a state representative, and Mark Pinsley running for Auditor General. It says, he's here, is Mark Pinsley?
He's not here yet, he might be
Okay,
here.
so I'm gonna hold off because he's gonna be here in a little bit later. Okay, we've also heard about the bipartisan infrastructure bill. A lot of roads, bridges, buildings, bring America back. It was a bipartisan effort. Boy, I'll tell you, I don't see Congressman Joyce talking so much about that and bringing money back here to Cambria County. And it sure seems to me when I read the newspapers, Representative Frank Burns is doing a lot, bringing that state money back here. And you know what? I think if you add it up, it's probably more money coming back to Cambria County than we send to the Treasury in Harrisburg. But I've only met Congressman Joyce a couple times.
Oh, you got to meet the elusive Joyce, huh?
The elusive Joyce. He's not fire and brimstone. I really don't know what he stands for. He just knows that he's got the registration. That's all he's going to run on. But we have a young woman here, Beth Farman, who's a candidate. God bless her. PA 13, 10 counties plus 2. That's how large it is. So she's going to give you some of her time. Give her a complete attention.
Good morning, Cambria County. It is great to be here again, and I believe you will see me again and again and again and again and again. I'm here not only to remind you of the positions that we're taking on democracy, reproductive freedom, gun safety, public education, universal health care, and immigration reform, but to remind you that we're scoping up and down the ballot. We're looking at truth versus lies. Anywhere you look on this ballot, the soul of our nation is at risk. And so primarily, I'm here to talk about democracy. And first, we're going to celebrate. I believe everybody here who does mail-in ballots has received yours. How many of you received yours? How many of you have voted and sent them in? And how many of you voted for me? All right. All right. More. All right. Well, we're also here to recognize that this election moves past the primary. After the primary, like State Senator John talked about, we're going to be talking more and more to our friends and neighbors. And we know that a lot of them are registered Republican, like I was once upon a time. But we also know that they are not all for Trump, that there are sane Republicans out there, and that we need to help them find themselves. They're not going to organize themselves. It's up to us to bring that out of them. But we need tools to do this. And so I invite you to remember what I call the constitutional values. These are the phrases between the commas of the preamble to the Constitution. And if you have it memorized or you feel like pulling up the preamble to the Constitution on your phones, I invite you to say it with me. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. And the people who wrote those words wrote them as the spirit of the law that we follow. The Constitution is the law that we follow, and our state constitutions, sorry, I don't want to. The constitutions of the states follow the Constitution of the United States. And I actually see silhouettes of some of the famous people who helped write these important documents, the Constitution of the United States especially. So let's talk about those constitutional values. We, the people of the United States. That's right. Our government starts from the bottom up, not the top down. And President Biden said it best in his State of the Union address on March 6th. The middle class built America, and the union built the middle class. We don't forget. In order to form a more perfect union, the job of Congress is to work together to advance legislation that benefits all of us. In fact, President Biden and many Democrats in Congress are working to get federal funding for the bridge that collapsed in the Port of Baltimore, the Francis Scott Key Bridge. But the Freedom Caucus of the extreme right Republicans has been against it prior to the insurance ultimately funding it. President Biden and the Army Corps of Engineers, American workers, are working to reestablish that route and then open it up fully by the end of May. And that's who we need. We need people in Congress to recognize this is how we continue to build America, just like President Biden talked about. In order to establish justice, we establish justice when we find former presidents and accused criminals like Donald Trump guilty of inciting insurrection. We ensure domestic tranquility. We never support insurrection, and we always condemn it, unlike Trump's crony, my opponent, Representative John Joyce. Provide for the common defense. Of course we provide for Ukraine against authoritarian regimes like Russia. Of course we reauthorized FISA just this past week, the Foreign Intelligence Service Act, that provides 60% of the intelligence that President Biden uses every morning. It helped thwart the terrorist attack on the Colonial Pipeline, which you may never heard of because we have this intelligence. And then we promote the general welfare, the Infrastructure Investments and Jobs Act, the American Rescue Plan, and the Inflation Reduction Acts were all acts that benefit all of us, including using American workers to build our infrastructure. But my opponent, Republican Representative John Joyce, voted against all 3 of those. And we promote the blessings, we secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. We recognize that there is climate change. We work against it. We advance public education. We desire universal health care.
Is he the 47th now?
Yes.
So I get 46. So I get to stay at 46, right?
Yes.
Okay, I know it works. The next president, the sitting president, the unmistakable president of the United States, Joe Biden.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sam Wasserman, and I am here today because Pennsylvania picks presidents. And as we've mentioned today, Pennsylvania picks presidents not just in Pittsburgh and in Philadelphia, but in places like Cambria County, in Mercer County, in Elk County, in our rural counties where Democrats know how to do the hard work, know how to show up, and know how to turn out the vote to make sure that we win. So I want to start with a little bit of my personal story. One of the reasons that I do this work is because of my nephew, Derek. He was born with a disease called spinal muscular atrophy. It's like ALS, but it starts from birth, where you start to lose your muscle, where you aren't able to move. He needs 24 hours a day nursing care. He is permanently trached. Just last week, he had to take a 2.5-hour ride in an ambulance to the hospital because, just like all of you, he lives in a rural county. And he doesn't always have access to the services he needs. But President Biden and Vice President Harris, they are doing the work every single day to make sure that he has health care, to make sure that the drugs that he needs, those costs are coming down. And here in Pennsylvania, as Lieutenant Governor Davis mentioned, President Biden and Vice President Harris made sure to lower the cost of insulin for seniors to $35 a month. That's 3 million Pennsylvania seniors that now can afford their medication. They made sure to cap the cost of prescription drugs, out-of-pocket costs, at $2,000, and now they're fighting to make sure that every single Pennsylvanian, every single American can have those lower drug costs and lower drug prices. Because we know we need to have access to the medication that Americans are innovating and manufacturing, and we need to be able to access that. I worked for the Pittsburgh mayor when the Fern Hollow Bridge collapsed. That day, President Biden was on his way. And from the moment the bridge collapsed, his team and he was invested in making sure that our infrastructure was rebuilt, and we did that in under a year. President Biden and Vice President Harris are leading on the issues that actually matter to us. Whether it's our healthcare, whether it's our infrastructure, whether it's bringing back good paying union jobs to our communities and every single community across this state. This election, as the Lieutenant Governor mentioned, it could not be more important because our democracy is on the line. When someone is going to challenge votes, when someone is going to question the integrity of our democracy, something that people every single day get up and work to protect, our election administrators, our volunteers at the polls, they are dedicated community servants, and they deserve our thanks, not our slander. Right now, we have an opportunity to take our communities and make sure that they are centered in this campaign, centered in this conversation, by having conversations with our neighbors, by having conversations with our friends, our coworkers, someone that we might not know their political views. But if we talk to them about something simple, something small, something that is personal, because this campaign is personal for every single one of us, then we can win, because we can turn one more vote out for President Biden and Vice President Harris. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be cakewalk. We're not going to be able to do this right away, but we're going to do it every single day, and that's why we are investing in this state, in this Commonwealth, earlier than ever. We are building up a campaign team that will be present in places like Cambria County, because Cambria County is going to be what puts President Biden and Vice President Harris over the edge to win this year, and it's going to be thanks to you. It's going to be thanks to all of us. And so even though I got a flat tire this morning, I made sure to get here from Pittsburgh because there is no place I would rather be. So I am going to be here. We have some window signs, some rally signs out in the hallway. We have literature, we have stickers. Nina has already talked to me about what more we need here in Cambria County, because this is not going to be the end of it. This is the beginning. And every single day from now through November, we need to do every single thing we can to make sure that President Biden and Vice President Harris are reelected, and that we have a democracy, a nation, a commonwealth to be proud of. I know I'm proud of them, and I hope you are too. Let's go get it.
And Nina said, where's Tom Terninsky? He wants to talk.
No, I guess.
You get 4 minutes.
I can't.
4.
Nina asked. But Senator, thank you, and good morning. And the Crescent American Legion does a great job of hosting the best pancake breakfast anywhere. Twice a year, I know they do it for the line. Thank you, Crescent American Legion. And the man back there that just bowed over, Mr. Dillon, he was the Volunteer of the Year 2 years ago. He has a big head, he's not humble, he's, but no, thank you, Volunteer of the Year, thank you, the Crescent American Legion. Senator Wozniak talked about the state and being in a deficit. No different, myself, Commissioner B.J. Smith came in the office and we're almost $10 million in a hole in Cambria County, so we got left in a major hole too. And at the end of the day, we talk about working together, but I want to give a shout out to the Lieutenant Governor and also to the Governor. The Lieutenant Governor, I met with him this past Wednesday in Harrisburg. He wants to work with everybody. He connected with everybody. He works for Republicans, Democrats, and everybody at the end of the day. And he was in Evansburg about a month ago. So Cambria County's not been, he's not been a stranger to Cambria County. And like he said earlier, the Shapiro administration kicked off their campaign here in Cambria County a few years ago. And also, it's nice to hear when you go to the Farm Bureau spring dinner a couple weeks ago, and the Farm Bureau's talking, and they're talking about Governor Shapiro. And Governor Shapiro's been very active in CCAP, Association for County Commissioners. He spoke to us 3 times already. Nothing against past governors, but that doesn't happen that often. And I understand he gets invited to the governor gets invited to the Farm Bureau's annual meeting in Harrisburg, and Shapiro showed up twice. So it's nice when the Cambria County Farm Bureau, which they do a great job recognizing our governor, shows up. And it's nice also when they show up. The Lieutenant Governor showed up in Erie last year to address the county commissioners. And then in March, the Governor Shapiro, past March, Governor Shapiro also. But it's nice to sit with our fellow colleagues, Republicans and Democrats, listen to our governor and lieutenant governor talk to us, because showing up wins. Showing up represents everybody. So even the people that may be anti the governor, they find it hard to dislike the governor. And it's easy to network and work together. As we run for office, and Senator Wozniak gave me a nice shout out earlier, but thank you. But every day is an election day. Every day is about connecting and listening and connecting people to the right organization, or to the right person, or to the right business, or to the right agency. And then every once in a while, you have people like Edit Albright who calls you 20 times a day and stuff like that. But people like that, people like Edit, people want good things to happen in their community. And at the end of the day, we are Democrats, and we're about getting stuff done, but we represent everybody. And I believe Governor Shapiro, Lieutenant Governor Davis walks the walk and talks the talk. We represent everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. And before I bring Nina up, just one last point about the president. Do you want a president that yells, screams, makes fun of people, lies, wears orange makeup, but does everything for his own personal benefit? Or do you want a president that speaks softly, stutters occasionally, the rest of the leaders of the planet Earth respect him, he's keeping a lid on very chaotic situations in this world, and the whole world is looking up to the United States as to what our decision is going to be. as rural Democrats, our role is to do the best job we can to get our Democrats out and make sure they vote, not just April 3rd, but on the first Tuesday in November when we vote for Joe Biden for President of the United States again. And with that, I bring Nina, our chairlady, up for the final word.
I'm a little shorter. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone who came out. It's not the easiest to come out on a cold, windy, rainy, gray day in April to drive to Crescent. Some of us, it takes me about 50 minutes to get here, but we try to get everything, every part of the county. We're really striving to make sure everyone is included. Not everything's just in Johnstown or Evansburg. So we like being able to have these at different places. So it's very weird because Jason's over here taking a picture of me, and I'm usually doing that because we work together. We're both, we've met on a campaign. So staffer's always going to be, internally here. But just real quick, first of all, on President Trump, grifters are going to grift, and that's what he does best. If you haven't seen the Bible sales with Lee Greenwood, who they're saluting each other, even though neither one of them have ever served. But we also have another very, 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 very important race, and that is Bob Casey is up for re-election. And if you've seen Dave McCormick's commercials, he says nothing about that, nothing at all. Dave McCormick has not even pledged that he is going to move back into Pennsylvania and live here full time. We have already done that. We already gave Rick Santorum the boot, all right? We've done that. He never lived here, whatever. But I'm not even gonna go anywhere on Rick Santorum there. But Dave McCormick, I don't understand how someone who's a hedge fund manager